aspirations, I saw for the first time that he had also been a dreamer. And though he mentioned the word dream only a few times in his stories, when he first said the word aloud, I felt as if he was admitting to me, if not to himself for the first time, that the work of his lifetime was not what he had once dreamed it would be. I had grown up sensing a backstory unexplained, one that revealed that he had not been able to achieve the ambitions of his youth. But of all the stories that were told, this was not one of them. In my eyes, he and my mother had taken care of things, and that seemed to surpass any career and lifestyle aspirations they once had envisioned. In my eyes, he's a success. And in the thousands of words he has shared with me, I've come to learn that such success is often fueled more by necessity than by dreams. The task of achieving some kind of American dream begins for most immigrants like my grandparents, not in the United States, but in the old country, as soon as they make the decision to leave. A few years ago, and I should add all four of my grandparents were born in Italy, so I am third generation, but I grew up with them all around me. It was just a gift. We took a trip to that part of Italy with my father. There he could see for the first time the place where his own father and mother had been born, in the tiny town of Pizzone, which looks as if it's carved out of the side of the Apennines, the mountains that run like a crooked spinal cord stretching through much of Italy. It is a postcard of a place with red tiled roofs and narrow streets of gray and white cobblestones, a commune on the western border of the province of Isernia, once part of the region of Abruzzi, and later repartitioned as part of the province of Molise. The area surrounding Isernia is believed to have been settled at least 700,000 years ago, a place where evidence of the oldest site documenting the use of fire by humans has been identified. Pizzone itself can be found from a roadway where Roman soldiers marched as early as the 4th century BC during the Samnite Wars. The colorful stories my grandfather told my father of traveling by cart and donkey nearly 120 miles to Rome to board a train that would take him another 140 miles to the port of Naples, where he would embark on the SS Santa Ana for America, more than 4,000 sea miles away, came back to me. And I suspect to my father at the moment we parked in the small overlook at the base of the town. Even as I stepped on the clutch and put on the brakes of the thin-muscled Fiat that had pushed us up the mountains, in my peripheral sight, I could see my father shaking his head from side to side in the passenger seat, as he became increasingly aware of the route his father would have had to endure more than 100 years ago, just to get down the mountain and to reach Rome. We emerged from the car to look over the hilly horizon of the terrain my grandfather must have traversed, and stood in silence, gazing at the unspoiled but rugged beauty of the pastoral valley, where we later learned that my grandfather had actually spent his earliest years. That poor devil were the first words my father uttered as he stepped toward the rocky border of the lookout. That poor devil. If his words spoke sorry for his father at that moment, his eyes glowed with admiration. When my father was a child, I'm going to fast forward, the time in this goes back and forth a little backwards. The wonder of air flight had already captured the public's imagination, and the possibility such technology offered for the transport of people and goods, as well as advanced tactics in warfare, created new opportunities, of course, in research and design. Michigan-born aviator Charles Lindbergh left his studies in mechanical engineering at the University of Wisconsin after 2 years, working first as a mechanic for the Nebraska Aircraft Corporation, and later he leading up to his historic transatlantic flight in 1927. The pilot began to embark on barnstorming tours with 2 of Nebraska Air's pilots before joining the Army Air Service. A local pilot we know has suggested to me that some believe Lindbergh barnstormed in the mid-20s in the open fields near what was going to be the new Brookfield Zoo site, which was under construction at the time. When I mention this to my father, he simply laughs. Now, these are the words of my father, which in the text are graphically demonstrated when he speaks and when others speak. Rocco. I don't know what exactly started me on airplanes. I was just always interested in them. I took my first flight in 1925, I was 5 years old, at a picnic in the forest preserves near Brookfield Zoo, near a job site in the nearby, near a job site where my father had been working. We were there with Papa's partner, John Giannini, and his son, Eddie. My grandfather had a business in sewer and water construction in the city and throughout the suburbs, and my father followed that. My father, for a variety of reasons, which you come to learn, joined him in business. But they were there that day with his partner, John Giannini. And there was a pilot barnstorming in the field charging $5 a ride. That was a lot of money. He had a one-engine plane with an open cockpit, and there was only room for two, the pilot and a passenger. He asked if we wanted to go for a ride. Eddie was crying his eyes out. He didn't want to go at all. I did want to go, but my mother wouldn't let me. Then I must have started to cry and cry, because my father came up and gave the pilot $5 and said to my grandmother, "Let him go." I sat in the back. It wasn't that fast, maybe 120 or 130 miles per hour. When we came down, we landed in the middle of everyone having their picnic. When we moved to Arlington, I had my own bedroom, and I picked out and hung wallpaper in my room with the skyline of Manhattan on it. I painted my ceiling sky blue. I spent hours at the YMCA carrying balsa wood into model airplanes that I hung from the ceiling. I don't know what happened to them all. All I remember is sometimes I would give a model to one of my younger cousins. I have just a couple paragraphs more and I'll stop. I started to think about designing aircraft, and by the time I was in high school, I'd even earned a scholarship to the New York High School Academy to study aviation design, but my folks wouldn't let me go. I was their only son. My father needed my help, and my mother couldn't let me leave. So instead, after I graduated from high school, I enrolled in the architectural engineering program at Armour Institute, which was becoming part of Illinois Institute of Technology. And that's where I took classes with Mies van der Rohe. It was 1939. And then I'll just conclude with a very short poem that I think speaks to what we've all been talking about, and it's called Origins. It's a prose poem. There is a packet in my desk drawer for pieces that caught my eye and remind me on some restless days of our visit to Italy. 5 Adriatic seashells, fluted and swirled, gathered in the Pescara sands. An old clay chip with roughs and sharps etched in its jacket, which my fingers pried loose from the weary remains of the cottage in Pizzone where my grandfather was born. There's a pod of a poppy, all ash and crust and crackled brown. It looked ready the day that I picked it. Seeds fell from its head. There is the olive tree's scent in that old woman's lap, the lingering sip of the burgundy harvest, and a violin playing notes that echo an Italian bird I heard singing in the hills. In a bottle on the shelf, there's a twig that I talked through customs, thinking it would bloom into a fig tree. It never did, but I keep it there still. It nudges me to never forget, to always remember just where I came from. Thank you very much.
We look forward to great things from the IATC and ask you to support it and submit material to it and get involved. Take a flyer and keep losing my track. Okay, Maria DiMarco is our next speaker. My most vivid memory of Maria is that in Italy, when we were talking about the book Italian Women in Chicago, Maria was my prompter, and she when I was looking for a word, Maria's voice came. She helps me speak Italian much better than usual. Now I need someone who will do it in English. Maria?
Grazie. Buon pomeriggio a tutti. I'm not the third generation or second. Not even the first generation. I was born in Italy.
Okay, time out. The generation that migrates is the first generation. That's a call by the sociologists and historians. So sometimes we get that wrong and think that the second generation is really the first generation. But you're first generation immigrant.
I am the first generation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
But I'm a first generation Italian also.
There you go.
Yeah.
I cannot separate the two. That's part of my book. It's part of my identity. The two cultures make me the person I am today. I am one. I'm me. Okay, let me see what Dominic did very well at the Italian Senate in Rome. People were wild against him, forgot about all the Italians. They were just, and they bought his book also. Okay,
Even though they couldn't read, it was in English.
There was a lot of wisdom. There has been a lot of wisdom today. Here, writing, awareness, culture. But what I will bring with me today is the quote, "To die yourself, be true." I really like the Shakespeare. Also because there is a theory supported by a professor that you can find on the internet that Shakespeare was born in Sicily, specifically in Messina. That's where I am from. And that's where that creativity comes from. We Italians are creative, but especially the people of Messina, they are very creative. Okay. Also, there are in the audience two people specifically, who come from Italy. They came 2 days ago, Lucio and Kalina. And there is a person who was on vacation in Messina. And when I heard it, I got excited. I don't hear people going to Messina. Taormina made it, which is 20 miles away. I'm not in Messina. So, okay, where were you? What street? What house? And so on. Okay, thank you. About my book. The title of my book is "Don't Kick Every Stone." This is to honor my father. Another father honoring. It was his say when somebody would pick up a fight. Picking up a fight, he would say, "Let it go. Don't kick every stone. You will ruin your shoes and maybe your life." Okay, so I honor in the book, I honor my grandparents, my parents, and I dedicate it to my grandchildren to have that connection, that continuity of the culture, of who we are in this country. The book is a collage. I'm reading a mosaic of recollection, a reflection of my life and my growth as a person and as an Italian American. It's one of my congenial critics put it. For the readers of a memoir, this is a refreshing approach in which each chapter is a stand-alone. It's a stand-alone work, a treasure trove of discoveries. There are other comments of my readers, of my really kind readers that I like to read. Somebody said it's a well-written, a thoughtful memoir of significant people and events. An intimate, a poetic recollection of the author's school days in Messina, her marriage and her coming to America, her life as an educator and as a translator. Another reader. The most compelling sections are the vivid, almost cinematic vignettes of the life in Sicily before, during, and immediately after World War II. Family members are brought to life by the author, an intelligent, sensitive child in those days, who observes with affectionate and nuanced eyes the heroic foibles, love, and squabbles of the adults and siblings around her. Other comments. An insightful book where the author pinpoints meaningful moments of her life and her personal development. There is a lot of reflection about my journey, my development. Born in Messina, Sicily, a land of beauty and warmth always present in her memory, she moved to the United States. After an initial phase of loneliness and bewilderment, she found out that it was possible to find joy, kind hearts, and warmth, even in the cold winters of Chicago. The narrative is rich with meaningful details, strong emotions, and personal reflections. The final realization of the book is that the author's journey through life between two continents is a journey toward the wisdom. Some people say that's because of my age. I don't think so. It's a journey. But could it be also a chronological journey? Okay, so it's journey toward wisdom, acceptance, and contentment. The awareness that both countries have enriched her soul and have offered the opportunities to grow and enjoy life at its fullest. And another comment, a most read lyrical history of an Italian-American life. Beautiful written and a pleasure to read. The book is a winner. Why? Somebody else said that. The book is a winner. Why? It is a traveler's delight, a historical timeline, a family saga. E adesso qualche parola in italiano. Questo libro è una collezione di ricordi, di riflessioni, di consapevolezza di come le differenze di due culture e di due continenti abbiano, col congiuntivo, abbiano plasmato la mia vita. Circa 2000 2500 anni fa, il grande filosofo greco Socrate disse: io non sono un ateniese, non sono un greco, io sono un cittadino del mondo. Questo è uno dei concetti che esprime il mio libro. Le due culture, l'italiana e l'americana, si incontrano e si plasmano in una sola identità. I miei ricordi del passato si incrociano con le riflessioni del presente ed esprimono la mia identità, la mia formazione come cittadina e come persona. Da questa identità una miriade di ricordi e di sentimenti raggiunge spazi infiniti. Si sofferma ai tempi della mia giovinezza, alla mia famiglia, ai miei anni di scuola, a Dante, a Leopardi, ai miei studi e la mia vita in America. Scusami. Le memorie si susseguono, si intrecciano, mi portano alle persone e ai posti vicini e lontani che hanno intrecciato i fili della mia esistenza. I racconti variano dagli anni dalla mia fanciullezza e della seconda guerra mondiale agli anni trascorsi in America. I ricordi di familiari e amici che furono parte della mia esistenza sono vivi ed eloquenti. Parlano al cuore. Grazie.
Our next presenter wins the prize. Our next presenter, Olivia Cerrone, is the person who wins the prize for coming the furthest. She flew from Boston this morning, and we're pleased to have her in the room. Is she in the room?
Yes.
Oh, there she is. Okay, I'm sorry. Olivia is a winner of a number of awards, including a National Arts Council Award and Distinguished Fellowship from the National Endowment for the Arts. So we're really lucky to have her, and we are happy that she was able to get here after having some airline problems. But God bless you, and thanks for coming, Olivia.
Thank you so much, Dominic, and thank you, Anna, for inviting me here to present The Hunger Saint today. It's such an honor to be here and to present this book among so many powerful and talented speakers, so thank you so much. I wrote The Hunger Saint to help raise a larger awareness of the Carusi, the child miners of Sicily. Children as young as 6 years old would be essentially sold by their impoverished families to work in the sulfur mines of rural Sicily in exchange for soccorso morto, which essentially translates to dead loan. It was called a dead loan because in order to pay off the debt, one either had to be dead or you paid the loan off after many years of hard labor. I'm a third-generation Sicilian American, and I learned about the Carusi when I was living in New York City for graduate work some years ago. I was taking a Sicilian language class, and I was horrified by the history of these children. that had gone on for hundreds of years in rural Sicily in the sulfur mines. And I devoted the next 5 years of my life, between earning a living and teaching and writing, to the study of the Carusi. But I soon realized that not a lot had been written about them, outside of some brilliant stories by Giovanni Verga, Luigi Pirandello, and a brilliant book of essays called The Man Farthest Down by Booker T. Washington. And there was also an Italian neo-realist film called Acqua's Descent into Floristella, which came out in the 90s. But other than that, there was not a lot about the Carusi. So I realized I was going to have to go to Sicily and speak to individuals who might have a closer relationship to that history. In 2013, I was very fortunate to travel to Voganera Carapepi in the region of Enna, where I was able to conduct research in museums. I was able to visit the grounds of former mining sites. And I also, most importantly, was able to conduct a series of oral histories among survivor miners. One of the gentlemen I spoke to, I had the privilege of speaking to, was 103 years old at the time of our interview. And the stories of these miners, especially, greatly informed the shape and the context of the book, of the manuscript that I was able to produce. I am a fiction writer, primarily. I do write essays and book reviews and author interviews, but fiction is my passion. Storytelling is my passion. And I decided to take this research and tell it through a story of hope and survival, through the experiences of a 12-year-old boy named Tony. And I'm going to read an excerpt from this book. Inside the mines, the earthen floor turned, a slow, gradual spin. The walls trembled. Black, crooked mouths of nearby caves and tunnels yawned, their shadows elongating across the dim corridors. Natoni threw down his basket of ore. Gripping his acetone lamp, he scrambled back through the tunnels. He approached the first miner he could. The man stood burrowing a rock drill into the wall, absorbed in his work. "Did you feel that?" Natoni shouted over the machine's buzz. The miner glared, but soon felt the dizzy sway of the walls surrounding his own pit. A low rumbling emitted from the rocks. He shut off the drill and cast a long gaze over the ceiling above. Dust sprinkled out from along a crack. His eyes bulged. He grabbed his lamp and raced out, screaming, "Cave in! Cave in!" Already a thunderous roar approached, much like the growl of an ore cart in the near distance. Mice continued to race past their feet. Natoni chilled at the touch of their furry bodies. He hurried after the miner, shouting, alerting the others, and a small crowd of workers soon joined them. They funneled into the main artery of the mine, everyone talking at once. Lamplight appeared and disappeared in sporadic bursts, a disjointed maze of shadow and panic. Frantic lines of Carusi hurried up along the tall stairway to the glowing archway at the top of the steps. Several bodies tumbled over one another. Natoni searched past everyone, frantic for his brother Lido. He raced closer toward the stairway. A ferocious groan echoed through the tunnels, and the walls twitched and crumbled. Soon, the roof would give. Natoni only caught a glimpse of the stairway's collapse. The fallen boys crushed. He screamed for Lido. A wave of dust and rubble kicked up and rushed forward. Natoni raced back through the tunnels, colliding with others. A thick dust cloud overwhelmed the area, knocking out the acetone lamps and submerging them all into darkness. The men screamed. They tore at one another in a sightless fury. Hordes of anguish rose and fell, splintered among long, hacking coughs. An explosion sounded in the distance, then another. The air was on fire, full of burning dirt and smoke. Natoni's eyes singed. A rain of hard pellets darted against his body, followed by a large rock that struck him against the jaw. Blood soaked through his tongue. A dim flickering emerged ahead, revealing the outline of a shaft and wide rectangular box, the elevator. Uneven shards of daylight emerged through the steel cage doors. Heat and dust shimmered in the small visible spaces above their heads. Some of the men fell against the elevator and tried to pull its doors apart, desperate to climb up the cables or find some refuge inside the empty car. Some pressed their faces against the meshing and screamed for help, hoping their cries would be lifted up through the shaft. The rumbling stopped. One of the miners found a lamp hanging near the elevator and revealed a wall of rocks that blocked the passage from where they'd come, though another tunnel remained open nearby. Natoni knew that this one emptied out into Scavelli, his miner that he assisted, and to Scavelli's pit, and he remembered the ladder that led above ground through the ventilation shaft. He pushed past the others who told him to stay put. It might take hours, if not days, for someone to dig them out. There was no telling when or if another cave-in would erupt. Natoni pushed past them and squeezed back through the tunnels, shoving himself forward in the darkness. Others trailed close behind, doubtful of rescue. He rounded another corner where a pair of eyes shot out from the weak lamplight. Natoni jumped back. Scavelli's face emerged from the shadows, covered in soot and blood. "What are you still doing here? Where's Lido?" The miner struggled for breath as he limped forward. He already took his basket to the furnaces. Natoni turned, but Scavelli caught him by the arm. "Don't you smell the fire? These tunnels could explode at any moment. Get back to the elevator." "I need to find my brother Lido." "He's not here. He must have made it out. Go back." "The elevator's not running. The only way out is through the ventilator shaft." Scavelli's gaze trained on him for a moment before he handed over the lamp. He followed Natoni at a hobbled gait. Blood covered his thighs. Soon they reached the wide mouth of the ventilation shaft, its rope ladder still intact. Other miners joined them. "That's a 200-foot climb," Scavelli said. Natoni gripped its rungs and pulled himself up into the chute. The rope felt too thin and flimsy. Another tremor shook the walls. Rocks fell back around them, but they pulled themselves through the shaft, a compressed space maybe 2 feet wide, barely enough for the men to fit themselves through. They squeezed themselves up. Natoni climbed, forcing himself up along each desperate inch of braided leather and twine that wore on and chafed against his raw palms. If he slipped, his fall would topple those beneath him. Perhaps the rope would give out, snapping under their weight. The climb felt endless. Natoni's muscles burned, his movement slowed, the dizziness returned. His grip loosened with each rung. Then the rope tugged with such violence that Natoni shrieked and wrapped himself around the thin ladder as he waited for the rope to snap. "The rope's too heavy! It's breaking!" Natoni cut his eyes to Scavelli, whose legs worked in savage thrusts, kicking at the hands and faces of those behind him, forcing the men to drop, their screams echoing down the long metal tunnel. Then he turned and reached forward. Natoni scrambled up the ladder and pulled himself